Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. I hope you all are fine. This is your science lesson, and in today's lesson, we'll learn about GM crops, how GM crops can be good or they can be bad. GM foods, GM organisms, or GM crops, right? In previous lectures, you have learned about what are GM foods. GM foods have genes altered or new genes added to them. And what are genes? Genes are the basic hereditary material that carry some information from one generation to other generation, or from one organism to other organism, right? And genes are present in cell. What is cell? Cell is the basic unit of life. Most GM foods are plants. The GM foods are the foods having their genes altered or new genes added to them, right? So most of them are plants. Scientists have made some GM foods using plants by using the genes of some other plants, or they removed some genes from bacteria and add those genes to the plants. Clear? We also discussed some examples about some plants can survive in drought and how we can make the tomatoes more red. In today's lecture, we'll learn that how GM foods are good or how they can be bad. GM foods are good because they help developing countries grow more food for their population. They help developing countries that have not developed but they are in the process of developing, so they can grow more food for their population. If the population in any country is large in number, so the food they require must be large in number. So if the food is less and the number of people is greater, then there will be some problem. People living in that country, they cannot survive if there is not enough food. So GM foods can help these developing countries to grow more food for their population. GM foods enable crops to withstand harsh climates. Harsh climates को withstand कर सकते हैं. They can bear the conditions that a normal crop cannot, normal food cannot, because they have genes that have the ability to withstand the harsh conditions, right? Third one is enable crops to withstand harmful viruses, fungi and bacteria. So because of these GM foods, because they have genes altered, so the GM foods will be able to withstand harmful viruses. If there is any attack of a virus or some bacteria or fungi, the GM foods have the ability to fight against those attacks, virus, bacteria or fungi, because they have best genes added to them. We have changed their genes, and when we change the genes, we make sure the GM food must have the best gene that can grow best. Last point is may not need pesticides spray onto them. Pesticides are some types of spray that are used to kill the pest. And because of their altered genes, they do not need any type of pesticides, because they already have genes in them that have the genes have the ability to fight against all the attacks of viruses microorganisms like bacteria, fungi, or any kind of pest. Okay? So supporters say GM foods are good because they help developing countries to grow more food. They enable crops to withstand harsh climates and also the harmful viruses, fungi and bacteria. And the last one, they do not need any kind of spray to kill the pest present in these crops. But if there is brighter side, there will be darker side as well. So opponents say that GM foods are bad because they interfere with the natural food chains. What are food chains? Food chains are like how different organisms are feeding in an environment. Animals are eating plants, some carnivores animals are eating some other animals, and human beings are eating plants and animals. There are some different levels in a food chain. Okay? Primary consumers, secondary consumers and tertiary consumers. You know that plants can make their own food, so plants are producers in our environment. So because of these producers, the animals who are herbivores, they will feed on plants. And the animals or the organisms that are carnivores will feed on other organisms, right? And you know that we human beings, being the omnivores, we eat both plants and animals. So according to this group of people, that the GM foods interfere with natural environment, that things do not go smoothly, that how an organism eat other. This food chain will be disturbed by these GM foods, cause new allergies to develop in humans. It develop new allergies because they use some genes that can cause allergies in humans. Third point says, have not been tested enough to ensure that humans will not be harmed. That we have not performed enough tests to make sure that these GM foods are not bad for humans, because as we are changing the genes, so there might be some possibilities that these GM foods can cause new allergies or they can harm human beings in different ways. Last one is, are expensive to produce. These genes, as you know, in these foods, we change the genes or we add new genes. So the process of changing or adding the new gene is very costly. So these foods are expensive to produce. The first GM food or GM crop sold to the public was a type of tomato in 1994. You have to underline the date, 1994. It had been inserted with genes to stop it rotting on the vine. Okay? So the first GM crop was tomato and it was sold in 1994. And what was the purpose? To prevent the rotting of this tomato on the vine. So this is all for your today's lecture. Allah Hafiz.